Hello and welcome to a second video on utilizing the Windows taskbar. In the previous video on this topic, we talked about how to pin and unpin items on the taskbar, as well as how to navigate those items. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to launch items quickly from the taskbar in other ways. As in previous videos, I will be utilizing JAWS as the screen reader, but there may be some differences if you are using another screen reader in how you are being prompted. I'm going to share some differences that I've noticed when using JAWS versus NVDA. I haven't checked narrator on this one, but I did want to point out a couple of small things that I think it's really important to keep in mind. These issues may be fixed in a future release of either Windows or JAWS, but as of this recording date in summer of 2026, this has been a known issue. So it's worth pointing out. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to show you the known issue with JAWS that has been noticed and to kind of give you some ideas how to work around it. When we go to the taskbar and launch an applications menu using JAWS, occasionally JAWS will not have the focus that it reports. In other words, the system cursor is not focused on where JAWS says it is. Essentially, JAWS is reporting incorrect information. You might notice that this happens if you could swear that JAWS had just told you that you are focused on, for example, a specific file name, but a different file name launched when you hit enter. This is sometimes, of course, user error because we are all human beings, but at other times, it can be a known issue with the screen reader. They are not perfect, and as we all know, bugs happen. I'm going to show an example of this now. As you may recall, the command to jump to the taskbar is Windows plus the letter T, and I'm going to do that now.
Windows T, taskbar, Outlook, left parent, classic, right parent, pinned button, 1 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
I'm going to launch the Applications menu for Outlook by pressing the Applications key, but please note that I could also do this by pressing Shift F10. I'm going to launch that menu now.
Applications, items list box. Pinned unavailable, WCBVIAPH consumable and loan request form. 1 of 8. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
I know that JAWS is reporting incorrect information because it told me the name of what I know to be a Word file. It said that that was in focus and there was 1 of 8. But when I use my up and down arrow keys,
Tasks unavailable, new appointment. New email message, 1 of 5.
this is the up arrow,
New appointment, 2 of 5.
down arrow.
New meeting, 3 of 5.
There still is no mention by JAWS as I manually navigate of that file that it had previously mentioned. Sometimes what was mentioned before, the last thing that was accessed by the user, it's kind of stored in JAWS's short-term memory and it kind of forgets to clear it out. So it reports one of the last things it read in that context menu. Therefore, it's important to, if you notice that these kinds of issues are happening to you, a good workaround, it's important to notice them and to use your up and down arrow keys to double check your positioning in the menu. This will save you a lot of time. Some people do this by default because they have learned not to necessarily trust what the screen reader says 100% of the time. And honestly, this is not a bad strategy at all. Because as we all know, machines aren't perfect and neither are programs. So this is one way to work around the problem. I'm going to press Escape.
Escape, taskbar, Outlook, left parent, classic, right parent, pinned button, 1 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
I've exited my context menu now. I'm going to relaunch this context menu and show you a small trick.
Applications, items list box. Tasks unavailable, new email message. 1 of 5. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
In this case, I know that I am in the right place and JAWS is reporting the correct information. How do I know that? There are a couple of ways. Firstly, I know my programs well enough to know that new email message is going to be the first thing that shows up here. The second reason I know is because it said new email message 1 of 5. That indicates that it's the first item in a list of 5 items. Often troubleshooting screen reader issues is a matter of logic, but it's also a matter of knowing your setup. I'm going to hit escape here.
Escape. Taskbar. Outlook. Left parent. Classic. Right parent. Pinned button. 1 of 12.
I think that's enough of the troubleshooting portion of today's video. So I'm going to progress into the lesson portion. As you may recall from previous videos, the taskbar is a bar that is across the bottom of the screen visually. That it's sort of shaped like a ruler, long and thin, and it contains icons for various programs. Some of those programs are pinned to that taskbar, and some programs are there, just have icons there because they are currently running. We looked at how to pin and unpin running programs from the Applications menu in a previous video. We also looked at how to pin items and programs to a taskbar once we have done a search for them in the Start menu. Now we're going to look at some really neat ways to launch them and some other options that are neat called jump lists. Let's talk about how to quickly launch applications in the taskbar now. As you've heard more than once, the first item in my taskbar is Outlook Classic. It's often the first item that I open in the mornings when I get to work. Therefore, it is the first item that I chose to pin to my taskbar. I can launch that program by pressing Windows key plus the number 1 because it is the first item positioned on my taskbar. I'm going to launch that quickly.
Windows 1. Opening dash Outlook. Opening dash Outlook. Alt F4.
And I quickly closed it because there's no reason for us to look at messages in my inbox, that's for sure. So it stands to reason if launching the first item on the taskbar is Windows 1, the second item is launched using the Windows 2 command. The second item on my taskbar happens to be Google Chrome. If I don't remember the order of my items on the taskbar, it's easy to find that simply by pressing Windows plus T.
Windows T. Taskbar. Google Chrome pinned button 2 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
And I just learned that this is item 2 of 12. If I can't remember what items are in which order, it's easy to go across and listen to what my screen reader reports as I pass them by. There is not an easy way to reposition items on the taskbar, at least that I'm aware of. Probably the easiest way to ensure that items are positioned on the taskbar in a way that you want them to be. So, for example, the way I positioned my Outlook was by unpinning every other item from my taskbar and pinning Outlook first. Opening Outlook, then pinning it. And then the second item that I wanted to be on the taskbar, I would open that and pin it. Many people don't wish to go through all of this trouble, especially if it doesn't matter to them what position on the taskbar their item holds. Most people just want to know what number it is so that they can press Windows key plus that number. Another very neat thing about the taskbar is something called jump lists. Jump lists are recent files that you have accessed or recent locations or websites that you have accessed using the program that is pinned on the taskbar. I'm going to show you how to do that now. I'm focused on the taskbar. I'm going to press W for Word.
Word pinned button 7 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
Now I'm going to press my application key.
W. Applications. Items list box. Tasks unavailable. New email message. 1 of 5. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
Remember, the last item I was in was Microsoft Outlook, and the first item there, or one of the items anyway, was tasks. So now is another cue of a time when I know that JAWS is not reporting the correct system focus to me. If you'll recall, to be sure that I'm hearing the correct system focus, I'm going to use my up and down arrow keys.
Recent unavailable shopping list. 1 of 1. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
This is a recently accessed file I named shopping list. I could open that by pressing enter. If I always want to have things that are pinned to my taskbar, such as files that I access frequently, I can easily pin those. Remember, I used the down arrow key to access the shopping list, and the pinned items are going to be at the top. So I can press home.
Home, pinned unavailable, important document. 1 of 1. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
Or I could have pressed an up arrow. Either way would work. I'm focused on a document called Important Document. I pinned this document here earlier so that you could hear what it sounded like. What's really neat about this is I can pin and unpin files from this jump list so that I can easily find them. This is great if you have work projects that you frequently have to reference files for. It's also great for, well, your shopping list and your important documents. I'm going to show you how to pin and unpin now. As you'll recall, we accessed this context menu by pressing the application key or Shift F10, whichever one was most convenient for me. I can press Shift F10 or the application menu on this item that's in the application menu to give me more options.
A context menu open. 1 of 2. To move through items, press up or down arrow O. Unpin from this list. 2 of 2. U.
So you heard there were 2 items that were possible here. The first one was open, and the second one was unpin from this list. Given that I heard it give me incorrect information before, I'm going to use my arrow keys and find open.
Open. 1 of 2. O.
There it is, and I'm going to press enter.
Enter. Leaving menus. Items list box. Pinned unavailable. Important document. 1 of 1. To move to an item, press the arrow keys. Opening dash word. Opening dash word. Important document dash word. Edit.
And it reported to me that I was opening the important document. I'm going to use my arrow keys to see where I am.
Important document. Important document.
Well, to be honest, those are the only words I have in this file. Alt F4 will close a document. All of my files automatically sync to my OneDrive, so I don't worry too much about saving before I close. If that's not the case for you, you are definitely going to want to hit Control S to save your document. Because this is not a new document, you don't have to worry about naming it or anything because we've already gone through the process of doing that because the document exists. I'm going to press Alt F4.
Alt F4. Important document. Recording region indicator.
It closed Word, and it told me that I'm in the recording region, which is true enough because I am doing a screen capture recording. There are a lot of files that you can add or pin. You can pin up to, I believe, you can determine in your settings how many files you can pin to a jump list. There are various settings for that. You can pin a good number of them. There's not only the pinned files that you have available to you. Below the pinned files, as you heard before, I'm going to go to my taskbar again and press W to go to Word.
Windows T. Taskbar. PowerPoint Word pinned button. 7 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
Press my applications key.
W. Applications. Items list box. Pinned unavailable. Important document. 1 of 1. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
So because I'm not really quite sure if I trust JAWS, I'm going to hit my home key.
Home.
To get to the top of that menu. Or I could have used my up and down to determine what was around me. Either way. Below the pinned area.
Recent unavailable shopping list. 1 of 1. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
Are recent documents. Again, this is my shopping list. There could be very many recent documents listed here, or only a few. I'm going to show you one more thing with the context menu here. I'm going to press the context menu on this recent document.
App open, 1 of 3. To move through items, press up or down arrow O.
As you heard, I'm in a list of 3 items. I'm assuming I'm going to go ahead and hit that home key to make sure I'm at the top of the list.
Home.
Said the first one was open. I can open this document, but I could have done that just by hitting enter, to be honest. Let's press the down arrow.
Pin to this list, 2 of 3. P.
This is how I would pin a document to make it easily accessible. Pinned documents, no matter how many other documents are opened recently, do not go away. They stay pinned to that jump list in the same location and the same order that they were pinned in. Much like the taskbar, if you want your documents pinned in a specific order, you are going to need to unpin every single one of them and pin them in the order that you want them to appear. For most people, that's not a priority, but for some people it is. If I wanted to pin this shopping list, I could press enter here on pin to this list. Another option, and the third option, I'm going to press the down arrow to put that in focus.
Remove from this list, 3 of 3. R.
If I was done with this shopping list and I never wanted to see it again, I could press remove from this jump list. And I guess never want to see it again indicates that I'm erasing it, but I'm not. I'm just removing it from the recent items jump list here. It's still saved wherever I put it. I just can't get to it in this way anymore. It makes room for other documents that are more high priority. If I know that I no longer access a specific document, I don't want to get it mixed up with a document that I do frequently access, or I just simply don't want it in my way, I can remove it from the list. I'm going to do that now by pressing enter.
Enter. Leaving menus. Items list box pinned unavailable. Important document. 1 of 1. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
I'm going to press my arrow
List
keys.
box. A word. 1 of 2. Items list box. Pinned unavailable. List box unpinned from taskbar. Word. 1 of 2. Items list box. Pinned unavailable. Important document. 1 of 1. To move to an item, press the arrow keys.
Because that was the only document in the recent items, it also removed the recent items grouping. And that's fine, because if I opened another document, that would appear in the recent items grouping. I hope this information has been helpful to you.